Live from Studio 1A, KMUE proudly presents Something to Think About. Your host, Mark Turner.
Thanks. Thank you very much. Hey, let's get started. This is going to be a quick one. We are working with Christopher Small's book, Musicking, the second big section, beginning with Interlude 2. He talks about, in that Interlude 2, rituals, and how music essentially is a ritual, or has come to be a ritual. Rituals are important, as he explains in the book in greater detail than I'm giving you here. They are important because of their impact on social cohesion. Rituals help us to know who we are and why we're here and where we're going. When we engage in a ritual, be it a religious ritual or a community ritual, whatever it is, singing the Star Spangled Banner before a ball game, there is something we hear, there's a body, we feel it with our bodies, we see it, there's smells, there's taste. It's the whole enchilada that we experience, not simply the music. And two, if we want to, and he does, he carries it into a concert performance, it's more than the music in a concert hall. There's the smell of the concert hall, there are the people, there are the sounds, there's all sorts of stuff. So ritual is very important, and music is one of those rituals. And I want to pique your interest here, or your thinking, is a ritual like culture? Do people go into choir or into band because they like the culture? There's a ritual, there's an ebb and flow of a band director's life, and it's really never going to change. It's comforting in this way. And I'm wondering, is that ritual stymieing? Is it holding us back? Is the mere fact that we know there's marching season, and then marching season leads us into this season and that season, and there's this ensemble and this contest and that, is that thing holding us back? And that's something, whether it is or not, it's something to consider. In discussing rituals, Christopher Small talks about art and artisan. And up until the last few hundred years, not even that, 150, 200 years, art has been associated with a set of skills. We have an artisan. A blacksmith is someone who has specific skills in craft and art, and we always have this debate about arts and crafts and art. What is real art and what is arts and crafts? And this debate began in the middle of the 18th century. You know, if we define artisan, what is an artisan? The craft beer industry is huge, and is an artisan of beer on the same level as an artisan of silver, as in a jeweler. And we have artisan bread. We spend a ton of money on buying artisan bread, something that takes a little more skill to make than your average vanilla white bread. And again, this change he mentions in the book about the middle of the 18th century. And the middle of the 18th century seems to be a big epoch, there's a difference, defining moment in Western culture. And one of those things is the idea that the word scientific and studying things scientifically really became part of the lexicon of Western cultures. So after 1850-ish, somewhere in there was a new look at what rituals do. Ritual can be seen as something that you view, that you watch, that you listen to, and you can even say it's a pilgrimage. He mentions, which I think is interesting, that the object itself, and he mentions the crown jewels and the British crown, you could even say the Great Wall of China. The object itself, which may be incredible, and took a lot of time and a lot of engineering. Great Wall of China, the pyramids of Giza. That's okay, but what's important is going to see them. We've taken all of this and we've turned it into a great bucket list. Possibly so. I'm kind of putting words in Small's mouth, but has going to see or going to hear the definitive performance, let's say before Pavarotti died a number of years ago, going to hear him sing, even though he didn't sound so good, but knowing that this may be the last time you hear him sing, just knowing and saying, hey, I was there. There's a lot to be said, and that is a ritual. I was there. He moves on to scores and performances in the next chapter. He makes the comment that what used to be basically just an outline of what people would play has turned into a note by note, you must do this. We're much more obsessive compulsive these days than the performance practice was back 300 years ago. As you can see in the score in front of you, there's figured bass there. They have, the figures above the bass line, which, they have to interpret those chords that we all know from school. The other thing about scores is that back in the day, they kind of played it by ear, not necessarily by ear, but there was a lot of latitude for improvisation or adding to, embellishing, whatever it is. And now, with probably Alfred Durr on, great Russian, great German musicologist, on authentic performances, you have to find the or text, you have to find the beginning primary source, and that is exactly how it better sound or else. So if you're performing Haydn, you have to have the right tuning, you have to have the right instruments, the notation must be interpreted as Haydn would have done it, with little regard to the fact that each time the score was performed, it may not be the same performance, different instruments, or it might have only been performed once, because music in those days, as we know, was more serviceable music rather than a happening, as it were. And now, because we've ritualized that music, it is a happening. The last chapter has to do with harmony and how we in Western art and Western music in general have adopted tertian harmony, have adopted three-part harmony. He suggests, as well as others, Suzanne Langer being one, that music has a storm and a stress to it. The Strum und Drang. There's a push, there's a pull, there's an ebb, there's a flow. And as Suzanne Langer mentions in many of her writings, that it is similar, it's analogous to the storm and stress, the ebb and flow of our human lives, and that is why music is important to humans. Be that as it may, music does have points of consonance, points of dissonance, points of beginning, points of resolution. And it is through those points of stress and strain and resolution from dissonance to consonance that we have come to know meaning. We also know that tertian harmony is that 2-5-1, essentially. It's not always 2-5-1, it's 4-5-1 or 1-6-4-5, whatever it is. It resolves to 1. Regardless of what mode you're in, it always resolves to 1. Sometimes they may slip in a deceptive cadence, thank you, Wagner. Essentially, it goes to 1. He mentions, which is kind of, well, it's not odd that he mentions it, but he mentions that harmony, the way we conceive it, doesn't really need to exist other than a few people back in the day decided this is the way it should be. And over time, we have come to accept that this is the way it is. We have been acculturated to it. And in today's world, we've been enculturated to it, or we are enculturated to it via multimedia, via the movies. That will carry meaning other than its sonic sound. It carries some sort of an affect to us. He mentions that through all of that multimedia, the ads that we see, the TV shows we watch, the radio we listen to, the movies, all of those things have given us a harmonic palette, major and minor, modal, whatever it is, that we expect to hear. This goes to this, goes to this, goes to that, and if we don't hear it, then something's up, then, oh, okay, it resolved the way it should. So we are acculturated to a very conservative way of seeing how harmonies should behave, how music should sound. In sum, I want you to realize that you have to take Christopher with a grain of salt at times. His points about the ritual of music, that a performance is an elevated ritual, whether it is in a concert hall or a performance at a football game or a performance wherever it is. There's a ritual. There's stuff that we do. And we go back to those rituals because they are comforting. We know them. The second thing is the whole idea of a performance, the performance being something a little more improvisatory back in the day, back in the good old days, which is before 1850. And the bad old days are when performances have to be just this way because that's the way it is. And musicologists and theorists and everyone else is going to tell us this is the way it has to be. And the last thing, again, is that Tertian harmony is given to us. We accept tertian harmony based on acculturation through multimedia sources, through radio, TV, ads, and movies. I look forward to discussing these ideas and many, many more. You take care. Bye-bye.